Good evening and welcome to CoSIDA's Academic All-America Hall of Fame recognition ceremony, honoring 4 distinguished former student athletes and the 2021 Dickenberg Award winner. CoSIDA takes great pride in the Academic All-America Awards program. Since 1952, has honored the most outstanding student athletes across all divisions and sports for excellence on and off the playing fields and courts during their careers. Since 1998, CoSIDA has inducted more than 150 of these student athletes into the Academic All-America Hall of Fame. It is our pleasure to recognize the class of 2021. Please welcome our show host from ESPN, Reese Davis.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2021 CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame ceremony. I'm delighted to be back with you for another amazing event, albeit in a virtual format due to the pandemic. Unfortunately, we can't gather together in Orlando, but we are extremely pleased that all of our honorees are able to share their stories through the magic of Zoom. See, I know you get tired of Zoom, but Zoom is still good. I know we're all really grateful for their time and certainly looking forward to being in person together next summer in Las Vegas. Tonight, we recognize 4 outstanding individuals for induction into the CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame, as well as a presentation of the 2021 Dickenberg Award. These people have made countless contributions to their respective institutions, to their professions, and to society. The 2021 class will now join previous honorees of the Academic All-America Hall of Fame with recognition on plaques that are permanently displayed at the NCAA Hall of Champions in Indianapolis. So let's begin tonight's program with our first Hall of Fame honoree, former Florida State Seminole Dr. Myron Rolle, whose impact off the field is more impressive than anything he ever did on the football field. And believe me, and I'm sure you remember, what he did on the field for the Seminoles was wildly impressive. Growing up in the shadows of Princeton University, Myron learned at an early age about great Tiger student athletes such as fellow Academic All-America Hall of Famer Senator Bill Bradley, and he talks about what inspired him to become a Rhodes Scholar.
When I was in high school, I went to a boarding school in Princeton called the Hunt School of Princeton, right across the street from Princeton University. And I would go over to Jadwin Gym and I would see these trophies that were displayed about a guy named Bill Bradley. And I saw his story. I saw that he was an amazing student athlete, the epitome of student athlete, won a Rhodes Scholarship. That was the first time I heard about that award. And so I did a deeper dive into what a Rhodes Scholar is. And I went on all of my recruiting visits and told academic advisors, I told student support staff, I told coaches, I want to be a Rhodes Scholar like Bill Bradley, Hall of Famer, senator, NBA. This guy is everything to me. He's my hero. I'd like to be like him. And so whether that was Lloyd Carr at Michigan, whether that was Bob Stoops at Oklahoma, Pete Carroll at USC, Jim Tressel at Ohio State, Philip Fulmer at Tennessee, Urban Meyer at Florida, and obviously Bobby Bowden at Florida State, I was saying this consistently. And they would try to introduce me to Rhodes Scholars, right? Or David Bourne, the president of Oklahoma, was a Rhodes Scholar. So he introduced me to him, and then he introduced me to Chris Howard. It was it germinated from high school. And when I got to college, I got to Florida State and I committed there, Bobby Bowden committed to me that he would provide me with the resources and the capabilities to be a true student athlete. So that means providing tutors, that means getting involved in the Office of National Fellowships, where I will go to these different salons and elucidate my thoughts on poverty, on, starvation, on hunger, on, aeronautical engineering, all these different random topics that you just had to sort of opine on basically in front of these very eloquent speakers and brilliant people. I had a chance to go down to the Seminole tribe of Florida, work with, the Native American tribe there, volunteer at our local middle school that was predominantly Black and teach young Black boys and girls how to read. So all of that was supported by Florida State University, by my head coach, by my position coaches, allowing me to miss practice for a little bit to get my lab work done so I can do human biochemistry, mesenchymal stem cell research, allowing me to apply for the Rhodes Scholarship and miss half of the game against University of Maryland. All of that allowed me to be where I am today. A former student athlete who is now a neurosurgeon, now using the skills that football has taught me to help save lives and hopefully make a difference in the world. I'm just super appreciative of all of that assistance, all of that help, because it got me here today to be speaking to you all. And, it frankly has shaped how I think of myself as a leader and hopefully a difference maker in this world, whether it be in medicine or somewhere else.
Myron is on a path to become a neurosurgeon as he is currently in residency at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. The pandemic altered those plans over the past 15 months, and Myron talks about the challenges he encountered as he pivoted to healthcare profession.
I'm currently a senior neurosurgery resident and global neurosurgery fellow at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard here in Boston. The year 2020 in particular was very difficult for all of us, especially myself, training in neurosurgery and having to put that on hold because of the pandemic, and our hospital being one of the major hospitals in the New England area, being a sort of a catch-all for any sort of disease, pathologies that are in this area. We were overrun with a lot of patients. And so the elective surgeries were put on postponement. Our clinics were postponed as well. And so I volunteered for our surge clinic to add into the manpower of providers that could take care of COVID-19 positive patients who are coming off the street or as transfers from other regional or community hospitals. And so very difficult. It was a fast learning curve to understand about COVID, how it affects the body, what you should do, the kind of imaging you should get, the kind of consulting services you should try to employ, how to examine these patients, how to protect yourself when you go into the operating room or into their patient's room to examine them as well. So all of it was very trying and very challenging, but I think it's on the other side of it, it made me feel like I was a part of a bigger team in Mass General Hospital, and all of the providers, nurses, practitioners, staff members, material management, food service, everyone who has a role in making sure hospitals work and function on a day-to-day basis. I felt like I was a part of a bigger team again, just like I was when I was playing football.
The Myron Rolle Foundation has helped numerous families with educational opportunities and initiatives, both in this country and in his native Bahamas. Myron tells us how the foundation got started and the impact it has made, including on his own family.
So I started the Myron L. Rolle Foundation, which helps young people and families who are disenfranchised and marginalized around the United States, as well as in the Bahamas, where I'm from, in health, wellness, and education initiatives. We've helped foster kids, we've helped Native American children, anti-obesity, Seminole Tribe of Florida kids. And now we've transitioned from sort of doing some of those groundwork, organic level things to doing something called the Caricom Neurosurgical Initiative, which is an outstanding initiative to develop the neurosurgical infrastructure in the Caribbean, where I'm from, right? So you think about people who don't have equitable access to neurosurgical care, head trauma, fall, hit their head, wait 6-7 hours for a physician, end up becoming plegic, end up becoming worse, the bleed gets worse, they end up passing away. Morbidity and mortality is high in low to middle income countries, especially in the Caribbean, our own backyard. And so my foundation, in conjunction with my hospital, Mass General Hospital, has created the Caricom Neurosurgical Initiative to really allow for the community, the Caribbean community, to utilize the political unity that exists between member states and between countries, improve access to care, improve the quality of care. My auntie, she passed away in 2011 back home in Exuma. She was hit in the head by a car, waited for 6 hours to see a physician. There was no physician available, no CT, no MRI was available, no nursing available. It was very difficult for her to get care. She ended up passing away after 7 or 8 hours. And it sort of spawned me to think about neurosurgery, but think about global neurosurgery, how we can provide the resources to not let this happen to somebody else. It can happen in Haiti, it can happen in Grenada, it can happen in parts of the United States of America where there's not great access to care. And so we want to make sure that we're sort of connecting these dots and making sure that everyone can get good, accessible care, and that's important. So that's where my philanthropic and altruistic efforts have been leading me. And as a neurosurgeon now with resources here at Harvard and Boston, attending neurosurgeons, taking the resources that I know and the people that I know, the networks that I know to help in our neighboring countries in the Caribbean, it means a lot.
Congratulations to Dr. Myron Rolle on his induction into the CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame. All these people are great people. Let me tell you, Myron is one of the great ones. Myron, congratulations. A number of years ago, CoSIDA instituted the honorary category to recognize outstanding student athletes who certainly would have been academic All-Americas had the program existed in their sport when they were competing. Previous honorees have included the late John Wooden, Supreme Court Justice Byron Whizzer White, Dr. Donna Lopiano, Nancy Hogshead-Makar, Dr. Harry Edwards, and the 2020 honoree Bruce Furness of USC. Our next Hall of Fame inductee continues that tradition of excellence, as Ann Woods Smith was a standout gymnast first at Clarion University in Pennsylvania before finishing her career at the University of Florida. She has continued to impact her community throughout a distinguished career that tonight brings her to the Academic All-America Hall of Fame.
I was about 10 years old when I first really got into gymnastics, which is kind of late for a gymnast these days. But I totally credit my parents with helping to manage the pressure and the stress that surrounds the expectations of any sport. Because if they saw me cracking a little bit, or coming home upset from practices, more than 2 days in a row, they would literally yank me out of the gym for a week and a half until I was begging to go back. That's when they knew that I was ready.
The opportunities to compete in gymnastics were somewhat limited in Ann's native New Jersey, and she talks about how her parents, specifically her father, went out of their way to provide support and influence her career path.
In high school, there was no gymnastics program at my high school. I was on an independent club. And so my father, right before I became a freshman in high school, he started the gymnastics program. My father was actually my coach because there were no gymnastics schools in our area for a long time. And so he would drive me to Pennsylvania to practice with the Parkettes. And while he was watching the practices, he learned how to coach. So we would go back to my house and I would practice on a balance beam that he made me in the basement. He made me a pair of uneven parallel bars in the backyard. And so he became my full-time coach. And then as clubs started to open up in New Jersey, I joined Alta Gymnastics School. But again, there was no high school. The only thing you could do in high school was women's basketball or field hockey. So he started the gymnastics program there 2 years before I went to high school. And with that, it was a Catholic school. So by the time I was going to be a freshman, myself and four of my teammates from the club program went to the same high school. And so we immediately had a very good team. We won 4 state championships, but my father had to fight tooth and nail for us. When we won the states, we did not get jackets or rings like the football team did. And then when Title IX hit and all the other colleges had to add women's programs to their collegiate roster, that's when things really started to pop for women. And Ernestine knew that she couldn't recruit to a small school anymore, like Clarion State College. So she took the head coaching position at Florida, and 5 of us transferred to Florida with her.
SIDs are certainly one of the hardest working group of professionals. You can all cheer now. And Ann experienced that role when she served as the interim women's SID at Florida in the mid-'80s. She shares that experience and reflects on the impact that intercollegiate athletic departments have on a community.
Probably started my senior year, helping out after the season was over. And then when I went back for grad school, I actually became the interim Women's Sports Information Director from 1982 to 1984. And when they finally hired for the position, I became the Assistant Women's Sports Information Director. And with that responsibility came typing the play-by-play for all of the football games. I also oversaw the women's programs for gymnastics, swimming, and golf. And for me, it was really great to get to know the athletes as individuals and to understand their backstory. But what was really special about that time was being part of something bigger than yourself. The pride that you get when you are promoting an entire athletic program. One funny story I have about that time, though, it was after a gymnastics meet, and I was in the office on a Sunday morning, and I didn't think anybody was around. So as I am updating the record books, I verbally and probably a little emphatically said out loud, "It really stinks whiting out your own records." And with that, a sports writer from the Gainesville Sun popped his head in my office and said, "That's going into print." Seeing the camaraderie between the coaches and the ADs and the SIDs and the athletic academic counselors, People just don't realize everything that goes on to make that. And I don't think you really truly understand it until you've done it yourself.
Congratulations to Ann Wood Smith on her induction into the CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame. Our third Hall of Fame inductee was a two-sport athlete in volleyball and softball at McDaniel College. And Dr. Nicki Pesik's global impact during the COVID pandemic has resonated in the lives of many communities. As a two-sport athlete with a rigorous academic schedule, Nicki talks about her experience in balancing her studies and competition during her career at McDaniel.
I absolutely love being a student athlete. I got the best of both worlds that college has to offer. I enjoyed learning and focusing on the science and the math and the European history. I honestly just enjoyed being in the classroom and having friends that many of them, frankly, were not on the sports team. So it was a different group of friends. We often had small study groups and leaned on each other and took advantage of each other's strengths. Physics definitely was not my forte, but I had friends that were good at physics, so we worked together. At the same time, sports provided a really great outlet where my focus could turn to the team practices and getting ready for games and tournaments. You have to learn how to manage your priorities and your time and the energy. And I think without a doubt, being a student athlete made me a better student because I had to effectively use my time. I had to know what my priorities were, and when I was off the field and not on the court, I had to be dealing with the academic side of things. And I think you take away from being a student athlete, you know how to manage your time, you have a sense of how to balance those priorities, and those skills carry into whatever field you go into down the road. Sometimes the best learning experience is when you failed or you didn't quite achieve what you were hoping to achieve. I'll give you an example. When I was in the military, I got selected to be, a squad leader, and I had to take the squad through an exercise, a field exercise. And in my mind, it was get this group of 8 people from one end of this obstacle course to the other end as quickly as possible. And off I took. And when I got to the end of the obstacle course, it was me and one other person. And I got an earful from a very large drill sergeant. And, I basically flunked that leadership test pretty clearly. And what it's taught me is I had a goal in mind, and I knew what my fears were that I needed to get over, but I didn't ask the other 7 people what they were nervous about to get to the other end of that obstacle course. So, for me, it is not fearing to make a mistake and not fearing to fail, but that if you do, step back and say, what could I learn from that? And I think it's a good learning experience.
Trusting science has been at the forefront during the COVID pandemic. Nicki knows that importance very well and speaks to the importance of communication and building trust as some of the lessons we've learned during the pandemic.
I've done public health response in different roles over 15 some odd years at the agency. So one of my dearest communication experts and friends said, it's always important to let the public and your stakeholders know, this is what we know now, this is what we're seeking to learn, and we're going to advise and perhaps change our guidance as we get more data and information. And so always making sure that whoever you're communicating to, whatever the audience is, that your guidance and your recommendations are based on what you know today, and that we're seeking answers. And where we don't have the answers, we're going to let you know we don't know that information, but that's what we're working to understand. And that this pandemic has hopefully shown everybody that we are an interconnected world. Infectious diseases do not recognize borders, and health events that start in someplace else in the world can affect us. We saw this before this pandemic during SARS, and this event has driven, hopefully, this point home that a disease anywhere can be a disease in the United States. I think second, the health of our communities and our families is a shared responsibility of us all. As individuals, we have the power to protect ourselves and those around us and limit the impact of this disease through our actions. Or, worse than that, we could actually worsen potentially the impact of the disease through our inaction.
Being a mentor is much more than just being a leader. And Nicki reflects on lessons that she has imparted and what the keys are to being both an effective teacher and communicator.
My job is I look to mentor at every opportunity. I think to quote Roy Bennett, good leaders create more leaders, not followers. And good leaders have vision. They share their vision, but they inspire others to figure out what their vision for themselves will be in the future. I would say one of the things I do as a mentor, I push people to be a bit uncomfortable. I think you have to be uncomfortable to grow your career and to learn new skills and to have new experiences. And at the agency, we have a lot of opportunities within these responses to put our junior staff into positions that they might never have thought that they could do. And they also have to know that there's a fallback. They always have a mentor that they can say, help, I don't know what to do in this situation. But I think at the end of the day, you have to push folks a bit to be uncomfortable to grow. And I always say, don't fear the mistake, you'll learn something from it. It's always difficult to see those staff that you've worked with and hopefully mentored, and they take on new positions within the agency. I mean, that's the ultimate reward. If you're doing something correct as a supervisor, you're helping your staff grow and move on.
Congratulations to Dr. Nicki Pesik on her induction into the CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame. Before he became the greatest clutch kicker in the history of the National Football League, Adam Vinatieri honed his craft as a jackrabbit on the fields of South Dakota State University, who had a great run in the FCS playoffs this year, by the way. Adam is known worldwide as a patriot and Colt, but his most important early lessons were that of a student and an athlete. Before becoming the contractually obligated to say this now, greatest clutch kicker in NFL history, that certainly didn't come without preparation, education, or even a backup plan. And Adam talks about what his career path would have been without football.
Education was always number one for me. I mean, I knew I had lofty goals. Every kid wants to, I would say most kids would want to be a professional athlete or whatever they strive and dream to be. Honestly, if football wouldn't have worked out for me on the next level, I was going to college to do all my pre-med prerequisites. I was going to go to med school and become a surgeon later on if it worked out that way. Fortunately for me, I continued improving, I guess. And even at that, I mean, coming from South Dakota State, small school in South Dakota, in my mind, I was going to do everything that I could to give myself a chance. And I knew at that, it was a slim chance at that.
Adam's arrival in New England coincided with Bill Parcells' tenure as the Patriots head coach, and he talks about the impact that Parcells' words and actions had on him as a rookie.
Didn't have a whole lot of experience, didn't come from a big school that, produces a lot of professional athletes, so I was really wide-eyed when I got there. And then you add on top of that, Bill Parcells is my head coach, which is notorious, a great coach, a Hall of Fame coach, hates kickers for the most part, but he made it pretty difficult from the get-go. I think that really, really helped me a lot because he challenged me a lot more. He challenged all rookies in general, but even for me, he wanted to see if I had what it took or if I was not mentally strong enough. They had a kicker prior to me, a rookie that they drafted, didn't work out very well, and so Bill was the kind of guy that every single day in practice he would walk up and he would try to challenge me. He would either step in my spot where I'm going to kick, or he'd stand in the way knowing that I couldn't kick, or he'd put the old little whammy on it, or and there was even times where he would at the end of practice, he said, all right, Adam, get out of here, 50-yard field goal. If he makes it, there's no conditioning today. If he misses it, twice as much conditioning. So the entire team's sitting there going, dude, you better make this. And so, and by no means those early mornings or those other days guaranteed me anything in life. It was just, it gave me the opportunity that when I got my shot, I knew what I was working for. And I guess I wasn't, it didn't overwhelm me at that point.
Crafting a near quarter-century career in the National Football League doesn't come without maintenance and preparation.
I think the older you get, the less of an off-season you have. I remember where, the first few years you could take a few months off, you could go on vacation, you could eat and get out of shape a little bit, but when you're 23, 24, 25, your body jumps right back, and in a couple weeks you're back in shape and you're ready to go. When you're in your 40s, you really can't do that anymore. I mean, it's more of a, if anything, the off season is really a time to really focus in on your nutrition, your workouts, your flexibility. It sounds crazy, but when the season would end, I would give myself maybe 3 weeks a month and then get back into it. And one good thing about being the old guy in the locker room is some of the young guys look up to me and they ask me questions like, hey man, how did you do it this long? And sometimes they're football related questions. Sometimes it's, tell me about how to save for my 401k, or maybe it's even relationship. Man, you've been married to your wife for 20 years. How do you do that with football? And it's fun because at one point I was big brother, then I was dad, and now I'm grandpa probably. So it works out pretty good where if I can give these young guys just a few nuggets of information that helps them in the long run, if it's financial stuff or if it's relationship stuff, and that helps them focus in on football, makes him a better player and makes our team better. So for me, it was just a badge of honor to be able to not only keep myself there, but to help the young guys, just achieve that as well.
Adam faced a difficult offseason in 2019 that required surgery. He talked about the tough decisions he faced and those he made when reflecting on his long and distinguished career.
So after the 2019 season, there was about 4 games left. I went on IR. I had a pretty bad knee, just years and years of pounding on it. So the doc said, I thought we were going in for the 20,000 mile overhaul. Ends up being the 60,000 mile overhaul. So a little bit more intense than we anticipated. And so he said, it's gonna take you a while. It's gonna take you a year till you get back. I've been working my tail off to try to give myself an opportunity for that without making a public statement. It just hasn't. At 48 years old and 24 years in the league and X amount of Super Bowls and all that stuff, I have no regrets. I mean, I loved every bit of it. Like anything that you use your body for your job, at some point it's going to end. And I've always told the kids that I work with, my son, who's now a high school kicker, that's got big aspirations. I always say, you never practice half-heartedly. You practice like it's a game every single time, because when you get out there, it should never feel different. If practice is more difficult when you get into the pressure situations, you've been there. And I guess that probably helped me when we got into the game-winning field goals in the Super Bowl and stuff like that. Then you get out there, and at least you have the confidence that you know you can do it. You walk out there and you go, okay, this is no different than any of these other kicks in the off season or when Bill was doing this or that. You walk out there and you trust your abilities and you trust everything that you've conditioned yourself into knowing, hey, this is the same thing. And then just let your body take over and focus in, and then usually, hopefully, it works out in the right way.
Congratulations to Adam Vinatieri on his induction to the CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame. And our final presentation this evening is to the 2021 Dickenberg Award winner, named for the broadcasting legend who loves selecting and interviewing the recipients of the award bearing his name. Established in 1997, the Dickenberg Award is given annually to a person whose actions and commitment have furthered the meaning and reach of the Academic All-America program and/or the student athlete while promoting the values of education and academics. The award was created in part to recognize Dick's passion and support of the Academic All-America program for more than 30 years, and more importantly, his dedication to education for more than 4 decades. The list of previous Enberg Award honorees reads like a who's who of sport and society and includes Olympic athletes, Hall of Fame coaches, cabinet members, and a former president of the United States. In December 2017, Dick's voice as one of the great champions of education and athletics went silent with his passing, but as was his true belief and passion, he would want us to continue to honor those who have truly made a difference and rubbed shoulders with their greatness. That tradition of excellence continues tonight with a presentation to this year's recipient. Tennis was a true passion and a hallmark of Dick's career, and no one made a bigger impact on the sport and society than Billie Jean King, a pioneer and hero to many young women across generations.
It all started when I was probably 12 years old. I've been playing tennis 1 year, all team sports. I played basketball was my favorite, played softball, baseball, volleyball, you name it, I played it. And tennis was my last sport. Susan Williams in 5th grade said, "Do you want to play tennis?" And I said, "What's tennis?" And she asked what it was. And I said, "Well, what do you do?" And she says, "You get to jump, run, and hit a ball." And I go, "I love those 3 things. Okay, I'll try it." So we tried it, and then my parents made me earn the money for my first racket, so I just couldn't bop out. We were a softball team at Houghton Park, Susan and I, and Susan said to the coach, Val Halloran, "Hey, I took Billie to play tennis." And Val said, "Oh, we give free lessons out here, and Clyde Walker comes as the coach." Well, my dad was a firefighter because Susan belonged to a country club, and I knew that wasn't ever going to happen for me. So when I heard about the park out in Long Beach, wow. So the first time I went out there, it was the second time I picked up a racket, was at the end of the session. I knew I wanted to be the #1 tennis player in the world. So that was 11. Now you fast forward to 12, Los Angeles Tennis Club, and I just remember kind of daydreaming and thinking about tennis and thinking about everybody who wore white shoes, white socks, white clothes, they played with white balls, and everybody who played was white. And I went, where's everybody else? Like, I mean, I came from other sports, team sports, like, where's everybody else? And they didn't have professional tennis like at Wimbledon and all the world championships on. I don't want to be an amateur. So I thought about, I wanted to change the sport, but more importantly, I wanted us to be inclusive. And that was the moment. And I knew that tennis was global. When you think about American football, baseball, these sports, tennis is global. I knew I had a unique opportunity to maybe, if I got to be #1, that maybe people would listen to me and I might have a chance to make this world a better place and more inclusive and fight for everyone. And obviously that's what happened. But it's because of that moment at the Los Angeles Tennis Club when I had an epiphany.
Dick Enberg became a longtime friend to Billie Jean, and she tells us how that relationship started.
I remember seeing Dick Enberg for the first time on KTLA in Los Angeles. In the 60s, I'm in my early 20s, and I remember seeing Dick Enberg there. And I got to know him through his broadcasting on KTLA. And then I went on to meet him during team tennis at the Forum with Dr. Butts, who owned the Lakers, Jeannie Butts, who now owns them. We had team tennis, the LA Strings, I played for them. Dick was around. He just came to everything. He went from obviously KTLA, and I can't believe, he did American football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf, boxing, gymnastics. I mean, this guy was every place, NBC, CBS, ESPN. I mean, he worked, he was an announcer for the Padres and the California Angels. And I just remember all these things he did. And then I got to see him at Wimbledon when he worked for NBC and covered Wimbledon, and got to do a couple of things with him. But what I really enjoyed about Dick is he was so fantastic to everyone. He listened to everyone. He looked you in the eye. But I loved to watch him when he went to work. He would go in the corner sometimes just before he'd go on the air, and he'd write things out. Sometimes he did a piece, where he just talked about a subject, and he would be over the corner writing about it. I thought it was very interesting because the best writers are usually the best broadcasters. And it held true with Dick, who he and I talked through the years about what's inner and outer success. But number one, relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. Your relationship with yourself, your family, your friends, your faith, your partner, your spouse, whatever, just in general. And Muhammad Ali and I used to talk about how you never know how the other person's going to touch your life or how you're going to touch their life. And SIDs are in a wonderful position because of all the different people they meet at their institutions, at their colleges, their universities. And I don't know sometimes if they realize it, but I think they have a unique opportunity to help make the world a better place because of all the people they run into and the different sports they're around. And number two, keep learning and keep learning how to learn. Keep learning and keep learning how to learn. Be a leader, step up, be an influencer. So sometimes it's not always what people think is leadership, that you're up front, you're talking to the people. No, it's the little acts of kindness that you do behind the scenes sometimes that matter more. So there's different ways to lead, but every single person is an influencer. But I think IDs have a unique opportunity that they can help in many ways, and they need to think about themselves as a catalyst, as someone who can make change and make change for the better.
Throughout her career, Billie Jean has fought not just for equality, but for what is right. Her memorable match of the century against Bobby Riggs wasn't just a tennis match. It sparked a discussion on so many issues.
The thing I think that we need to think about is just having equal opportunity, equal money for the programs. We just have to have equality. And the women are so late starting compared to the men. The men have had scholarships and help probably since the 1800s. So we need to do the same for women. It's going to take more time, investment, enthusiasm, and belief that we're just as important as human beings as the other person. So every single person matters. So do the right thing, give the same opportunities, don't give us old uniforms, don't give us bad practice fields, don't just do the right thing. Pretend you want to do the same for women as you do for men. Just pretend, what would I do for the men? I'm going to do for the women. I think when you're reading history, you think that things go really fast, all these big improvements, and it's not the way it works. And the reason I want people to know about history, because they're going to know more about yourself. The more you know about history, the more you know about yourself. And what is important, though, is how we can shape the future. That's why history is important, because history is alive. It's alive every single moment. So how can we help shape the future? And that's where leadership comes in. That's why I read this quote just about daily. It's in my medicine cabinet. I open it up, and it's a reminder that we never have really won yet. If you look at Black Lives Matter, if you look at what's going on with the police, if you look at what's going on with sports and the NCAA finals with the basketball, the men and the women, everything needs help and improvement. So every one of you as an SID can help get it right. If you believe in equality, which I hope you do. Equity and equality are really important. Equity is how you are fair to people, and of course equality speaks for itself. You want equal pay for equal work, you want equal opportunities, and every human being has the right to these. So you as SIDs can make a big difference.
Congratulations to Billie Jean King, the 25th recipient of the Dickenberg Award. Join me now in congratulating all of our honorees tonight. Dr. Myron Rolle of Florida State, Ann Wood Smith of the University of Florida, Dr. Nicki Pesik of McDaniel College, Adam Vinatieri of South Dakota State University, and our 2021 Dickenberg Award winner, International Tennis Hall of Fame icon, Billie Jean King. Now, please welcome the chair of the Academic All-America Hall of Fame Committee, Mark Fleming of Moravian College, who will share some final thoughts.
On behalf of CoSIDA's Academic All-America Hall of Fame Committee, I extend congratulations to Nicki, Ann, Myron, and Adam on their induction to CoSIDA's Academic All-America Hall of Fame, and to Billie Jean King, our distinguished winner of the 2021 Dickenberg Award. We hope you've enjoyed learning about these former student athletes, and as always, we are grateful to Reese Davis of ESPN for being our host again this year. We look forward to inducting the 2022 class of the Academic All-America Hall of Fame in person next June in Las Vegas during CoSIDA's annual convention. Have a great night.